There are 4 things that beginners to language learning do all the time that hold you back really badly and might mean that you end up making so little progress that you just drift away from it altogether and never reach that comfortable conversational level that you really want. Once you know what the 4 things are, they're all very easy to fix and switch out for things that are going to be super beneficial for your language learning and mean that you make progress faster than you ever thought possible. Now, each thing on its own is not great and might hold you back like 30 to 40%, which alone is worth fixing, but most beginners are not just making 1 or 2 of these errors, they're making 3 or even all 4 of them. I get that that sounds ridiculous because that would mean that your learning could be 4 to 5 times as effective if all these things are fixed, but I think that's accurate. And if you think about it, I think you know that too. I'm willing to bet that you know at least one adult, at least one, who has tried to learn a language and has put in a very decent effort, but after a while just kind of let it drop off because they didn't really know what they were doing, and maybe that was even you. It was definitely me one time. You know that lots of people try to learn a language and just never do. Language learning as an aspiration, like something that people want to do one day, is extremely common. It's just that these mistakes that I'm going to go through in the video are so commonly made that it's the people who are successful in language learning who are the rare ones, right? It's not the people who want to learn a language that are rare, it's just the people who actually do so are rare. So you don't want to be in the common category, right, of the people who wanted to learn a language but never did. So in order that that doesn't happen, let's go through what the 4 mistakes are, and more importantly, how to fix them so that you can make your language learning heaps more effective and be on your way to fluency. My name's Lamont. I help beginners to navigate the sometimes daunting and complex hobby of language learning so that they can have the same results that I did, but hopefully in much less time. Okay, so for mistake number 1, I want you to imagine that you're taking your first ever music lesson, but you're an adult, you've never had a music lesson before, it's a piano lesson, and you get in there and you sit down at the piano and your teacher says, okay, for the first lesson, we will try some Beethoven. She's Moldovan, by the way, I don't know why. And you're like, okay, Beethoven, that sounds pretty advanced, but I'll give it a try. And then she says, okay, let's hear it. And you're like, sorry, let's hear what? And she's like, you're Beethoven. You've heard Beethoven before, right? And you're thinking, yeah, of course I've heard some Beethoven, but I don't know which Beethoven I've heard. I don't know if I can remember it correctly. And I certainly don't know how to recreate it on the piano. That's what you're here to teach me. Okay, so this story sounds made up, right? That wouldn't actually happen. That's not real. If it did happen, you would walk out and find another teacher. But amazingly, this is effectively what a lot of language learning advice advocates for: speaking early before you have any idea of what you're trying to say in the language, of what any of it means. Now, I am not saying that you should not speak your target language, not utter a single word until you can read advanced novels in the language. That's not what I'm saying. But going back to the piano lesson, assuming that you're on day 1 or week 1 of your target language, you would have a better shot in the piano lesson of playing Beethoven accurately than you would of producing something meaningful in your target language, because there are certain Beethoven pieces that you've probably heard a lot more and have a lot more familiarity with than you do with your target language. Sorry, just getting my piano. You think Beethoven, you probably know this one. In my mind, I had that I would play it once well and then I would deliberately show a mistake. It turns out I'm not going to have to deliberately show you mistakes. Everyone knows this one. Not that it's for the piano, but still everyone knows it, and it is Beethoven, and most people know this one.
Yes, that was very bad.
People much more talented than me play music. I write music because then I don't have to do it on the spot. When you make a mistake in this kind of music, music has a way of telling you that. You know that you've made a mistake, unlike language. Literally, the smallest possible interval you could be off is the most wrong sounding thing in music, like this. Ugh. Sounds like the score to the Green Mile. Anyway, that's enough of me butchering the piano, killing this poor thing. The point is that you know when I make a mistake. I know when I'm making a mistake because music has a way of giving you that feedback that languages do not. You don't know when or if you are even wrong in the target language. And it's not just about pronunciation or accent. You could be making up entire words that don't exist and then celebrating the fact that you remembered this word that isn't a real word like it's a freaking World Cup goal. Is the piano lesson a perfect one-to-one match? No, it is not. I know that. But in that piano lesson, you would be at a huge advantage if you had heard a lot of Beethoven, like if you knew the pieces well before you tried to play them. By the way, you just are generally at a life advantage if you've heard Beethoven. Beethoven is the freaking GOAT. So, play me your Beethoven might be a strange thing for a piano teacher to say in the first lesson, but if you'd listened to a lot of Beethoven, you might be able to pick a certain thing and say, okay, I'll have a crack. And then when you played it badly, you would have something to work with. The takeaway, you need to listen and familiarize yourself with the language much more than you need to speak it. Much, much more. Because otherwise, you're just trying to play music when you have no idea what that music even sounds like. Learn what words mean, learn how they go together, start learning to read the language, listen to the language a lot, familiarize yourself with it, and speak it a little. That brings me to the second mistake that people make. Once they've decided to familiarize themselves with the language, the pendulum swings too far the other way and they try to just go in cold turkey. What does going in cold turkey mean? Well, it means not priming your brain with any meaning or context first. I'm going to show you what priming looks like using LingoPie, a video streaming service built for language learners and the sponsor of today's video. In order to become familiar with the language, you want to be watching and engaging with material in that language, but it's difficult for it to be engaging if you don't understand it. It also takes longer because you've got nothing to build on, and that's the hurdle that LingoPie is there to get you over. All their content, which is a lot of content, particularly in the favorites like French, Spanish, and Italian, has both English and target language subtitles, and you can read ahead, which not only helps your comprehension, but also teaches you to pass the sounds. If you've ever encountered the problem of actually knowing what words mean and realizing afterwards that you did know all the words in a sentence, but not being able to hear them when they're used at full speed, this is the best way to tackle that. You can even pause the content, select a specific piece of the dialogue, and hear what that would sound like on its own.
Dovremmo quasi esserci.
Dovremmo quasi esserci.
It's super simple to add words to your vocabulary list, and with the volume of material they have in all these languages, which now includes Swedish and Norwegian, Mina folk, and the variety of kinds of content, you can get a very long way in your target language just using LingoPie because it's everything in one place. Using the link in the description, you'll get 73% off even on their lifetime plan, and that price is only available if you use the link, not through the regular websites. So click that link to make sure you're getting the best price available. I genuinely think that that's a bargain if you are learning or thinking about learning any of the languages that they have. And yes, you do get access to all the different languages for that same price, which is handy if you are, dibble-dabbling in different tongues. Sounded a bit weird. Check out LingoPie using the link in the description, and thank you to them for making this video possible. So that is the second thing that you'll want to sort out. If you're not doing it already, when you listen to content meant for native speakers, you want to prime your brain in some kind of way so that you have some kind of meaning to latch onto. I'm currently listening to an audiobook repeatedly, but before I even started the repeats of that, I did listen to it in English and Swedish a few times actually, and that, the fact that I know the story well now, and the repeated exposure in my target language means that I'm already starting to pick up quite a lot of the language already, and I've only just crossed the 100-hour mark in that language in terms of total exposure. Which brings me to the third mistake that you're going to want to avoid. I sort of just started talking about it just then, but to help you really get what I mean, let's go back to the piano teacher analogy. She's disappointed with your attempts at Beethoven, but she's like, okay, we're going to spend 30 minutes trying to learn the Moonlight Sonata. It's your first music lesson, you can't read music, you don't play the piano, so after 30 minutes you can't play the Moonlight Sonata, but you're sort of starting to grasp a little bit of what the first couple of bars are about. You feel like, you're like, oh yeah, okay, if I just keep doing this for a lot longer, I will start to make some progress, and you're looking forward to the next half hour of the lesson, at which point she says, okay, that is enough, Beethoven, I think we do some Sibelius now. And you're like, Sibelius? All right, once again, in a music lesson, it would be ridiculous. However, in the language learning space, I see people doing it all the time, making the mistake of going for breadth at the cost of depth. As I said at the start, I help beginners, people just dipping their toe into the hobby, people wanting to know what this whole immersion without living in the country thing is about, and who just want to reach like a comfortable level before they talk about a really high level if that's something they do eventually want to pursue. So if that more or less describes you, I'm going to recommend depth every time. And I'm also going to recommend my newsletter because this platform can be unreliable at best, and I have lots of language learning stories that I've never been able to make a video about, but they're still good stories and they're still relevant to language learners. And those stories are from the perspective of someone, me, who has had the experience of going deep on one language, but I've also learned bits and pieces of other languages, and sometimes I've even had to use those other languages just to get around in my travels, and that's what my newsletter is about. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can sign up for that in the description. It's free and you can unsubscribe at any time. So I was talking about depth, and by depth, I mean getting to know 1 to maybe 3 or 4 pieces of content in the language really well before you move on and make things harder for yourself again. They can be movies or TV shows, podcasts, audiobooks. My go-to is audiobooks because that way they can be on while I'm just doing other things. And you could say the same of podcasts, but the audiobook tends to contain a bit more of a solid story to follow and just contains a lot of language. Now, movies can be great too. I love a good movie, but a 2-hour movie can generally be about 50% of language, right? So it's like only an hour of language. In 2 hours of audiobook, you get 2 hours of language, and you don't have to deal with anyone mumbling or generally any music or sound effects. Something I actually didn't mention about LingoPie earlier is that they now have short stories as well, which are basically an ebook and an audiobook at the same time, where the highlighting on screen follows where the audiobook is up to. Now, if you were to do this manually, and by that I mean getting let's say it's a printed book and the audiobook and like listening along with the book as you read it, we would call that scuba reading. And it's great, but in a language with a different script, or especially with characters, it can be extremely difficult. So this is a great feature that LingoPie have added, and it's especially good for languages like Japanese and Mandarin, where scuba reading from day one is essentially impossible. So that third mistake to avoid is going for too wide an array of material early on. I basically recommend that the content that you're using to learn your target language look like this. As you learn the language better, you should branch out, get more breadth in the language, but initially you want to go for depth, that is one thing multiple times rather than lots of things once or twice. Which brings us perfectly to the fourth mistake, and that is not getting enough exposure to the language in general, and particularly not getting enough passive exposure to the language. Now, I know some of you just did a double take going, passive exposure? You mean active exposure, right? You're a language learning channel. You should be talking about studying and doing the hard thing and getting the active exposure. That's the hard one, right? Yeah, active exposure is really good. You should do as much of it as you have time for. But the thing is, most people, myself included, do not have that much time for it. You cannot do as much active exposure as you can get passive exposure. Passive exposure, let's not mince words here, okay? Passive exposure is not as effective, but you can do heaps more of it. And it's not ineffective. It's not zero effective. A lot of people would try to say, oh, that doesn't do anything. Passive exposure, nothing. They're wrong. And you can do a lot more of it, like a lot more of it. I get exposure to my language, my current target language, every day when I am exercising at the gym, same thing. In the car, going somewhere, when I'm making my coffee in the morning, which takes me longer than it should because I'm really slow and pedantic about it. Basically, when I'm doing anything around the house, doing washing, always passive exposure to the language. So eventually it becomes significant. I know I'm going to get strawmanned here with people saying, oh, he's saying you can just do passive exposure. You can learn a language in your sleep. That's what he's saying. I heard him say, shut up, just shut up, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it replaces active study. I also, at the moment, am doing about 1 hour a day of Anki with sentence cards, whole sentences with single words to learn from them in context, but generally I try and remember the whole meaning of the sentence. So my vocabulary, it's going up very, very quickly, but I'm also getting all this passive exposure. And as I get more passive exposure, I pick out more words because I'm learning more words in Anki. And then when I do the Anki, I'm like, yeah, I've seen this word before, or I've heard it before. And it's reciprocal. Reciprocal, is that the right word? One thing helps the other. Maybe I should do Anki in English as well. The other thing about passive exposure is that it's not as passive as we might think. Sometimes it is doing literally nothing. Like sometimes you are so focused on what you're doing and the language drowns out into the background that much that it really is doing nothing. But that never lasts the whole time, right? So other times you'll be doing something and you're like actually listening quite intently to what's going on. It fluctuates, and the more Anki I do and the more words I learn, the more I kind of tune into the language. I'm like, that's interesting. Yeah, that would mean this, right? That's how this whole language learning thing works. You've got to keep helping the things that help the other things. That was an amazing sentence, right? You've got to help the things that help the other. You understand what I mean? It's like walking compared to running. For most fitness goals, don't straw man me on that either, okay? He said walking is bad and you shouldn't walk. No, running is going to be more efficient for most fitness goals. But the thing is, you can walk for like 4 to 6 hours a day pretty easily, or at least most people can. If you've not run a lot, if you're unfit and you try running for 6 hours a day, you're gonna die. It's the same with active learning, right? Okay, maybe you're not going to die trying to do 6 hours of active learning a day, but no one has 6 hours a day to do active learning. A lot of people, myself included, do have like 3 to 4 hours a day in which they can do passive listening. So that is the thing that kind of caps off all the others. Listen to it actively as much as you possibly have time for. Learn words. I'm definitely advocating for that. But if you don't have time, you should be at least listening to it passively. It does make a difference at some point because you're doing so much of it, and especially if you correct the other 3 things I talked about in this video. Remember to check out LingoPie in the description. It's a great service for language learners. If you haven't watched that video there, then I highly recommend that one. If you have watched it, then watch that video there. And don't tell me that you watched that one because you didn't. No one watched that one, and it's got 7 different soundtracks on it. Swedish is the original. That's it from me. I'll see you guys soon. Lo quiero.